Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Summer Law, and I'm currently a solutions developer at Irving Materials here in Indianapolis. If you're here, it's most likely because you're interested in being a software developer or you're interested in AI, and I'm really glad you've decided to join. As a software developer, there's already been plenty of opportunity for myself and my peers to use AI in our day-to-day lives. So I'm excited to get to talk to you all about a bit of what that looks like. To give a little quick glance of what I'm going to be sharing with you all, firstly, we're going to go into just what AI is, its advantages and its disadvantages, and we'll get to see just what AI can be used for. And if you're inspired to learn a little bit more, I'm going to give some insight into what you can do to pursue a future with AI technology. So, up first, what even is artificial intelligence? It might seem like a little bit of a silly question given how much of it is now around us, but it helps to make sure that we are all on the same page. Now, first things first. AI is simply the acronym for artificial intelligence. You're going to hear me switch between saying AI and artificial intelligence quite a bit, so I just want to make sure that we know what that means. When you think of AI, you probably think of tools like ChatGPT or the AI images you've seen and their generators like Dreamweaver. But there's actually quite a bit more to AI. It's not just one or two specific tools, it's a whole type of technology. To give a bit more of a dictionary definition to AI, artificial intelligence is a set of technologies that enable computers to perform advanced tasks. This includes the ability to see, understand and translate spoken and written language, analyze data, make recommendations, and a lot more. In other words, it is technology's attempt at replicating the human brain. Instead of having to provide the technology every single little step, the machine itself can fill in the details to execute whatever it is you've asked. Think of making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You might just say, well, grab two pieces of bread, one side peanut butter, the other side jelly, put them together, and voila. But there are actually a lot more steps than that. A computer wouldn't know how to open the bag of bread and grab those two slices. It wouldn't know to open the jars. Where does it find those jars? Or that you just need like a butter knife to actually get the peanut butter and jelly out. It wouldn't know how to put it on the bread. The computer just wouldn't simply know how to do these things. And you might end up with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with the peanut butter and jelly facing outwards. All of those little instructions that make sense to us might not make sense to a computer right out of the gate. However, if you were to ask an AI model, it would be able to infer all of those little things that you didn't explicitly tell the computer to do. This is because it has learned to accompany those steps with those extra little requests, and that is just a little bit of a glimpse into the power of AI. Now, just like there are many different types of people, there are several categories of AI. There are so many ways that people like to classify AI models, but these are just some of the broadest terms. First, you have reactive machines. These machines don't have any actual memories. They are simply guided by what is going on around them at that exact moment. They have some sort of foundation of what's right and wrong, but they don't exactly learn from the past choices they've made as a machine. A good example of this would be like a spam filter. With your email, generally they have an idea of what is spam and what is not. However, it's not using the fact that it flagged these last three messages as spam to say whether or not this next one is one. Another example is Netflix recommendations. If you've ever been browsing Netflix and all of a sudden you see that little what to watch category, that is pulled off of your watch history. That is the foundation of right and wrong that it works off of. Next is going to be limited memory AI. This is one of the most commonly used types of artificial intelligence. They have memory, but only a certain extent. They know a little bit of the past actions they've taken, but it's just short term. How short term? Well, that depends on the model. You're going to hear a lot of depends in this talk because there's no one right solution for an AI model. However, they can use this memory bank to inform their future decisions based on an algorithm that it has trained over time and built upon that foundation with its choices. One example that I can think of are self driving cars. There has been a lot of information that has gone into the self driving AI that Tesla's used, for example. It's a lot of things that it is doing and things that it has learned. Another example is smart thermostats. They have a short term memory of just what the weather has been around them, and they can use that to say, okay, do I need to change the temperature to keep this house a specific way? Next, you've got theory of the mind. You've probably interacted with this type of AI if you've ever used a virtual assistant, like some of the ones that some colleges have, or if you've ever used ChatGPT. These are specifically based around the fact that we're all squishy, we're made up of thoughts and feelings. And instead of being tailored just to spit out a really complicated number of yes or no, pass or fail, these are tailored to social interactions. They reply back as a human does. And finally, we have self awareness. This is the ultimate goal for AI that people want to lean towards, which these are essentially self sustainable in learning and capable of their own thoughts. With little human intervention, this is the type of AI that would be performing tasks entirely on its own without any prompts, sort of like a robot butler knowing when things need clean without you asking it to. A current example of a self aware AI is Eugene Gustman. This is a 13-year-old Ukrainian boy AI model that actually managed to pass the Turing test, which is what is used to determine the level of humanity an AI has. Okay, so enough of the definitions and technical talk. Let's get into what it means to use AI, see why you would choose to use it, and what you'll need to be mindful of if you decide that you want to use AI. We'll start off with some of the drawbacks that are important to keep in mind whenever you want to use this type of technology, whether it be in your personal life or your professional life. I'm going to speak more to the professional side. First off, is the access to data. Data security is a huge concern with new technologies and especially artificial intelligence. With so many models available, it's really hard to guarantee that the data that you give to it is secure. As a developer, you're probably going to be working off of some confidential information, and you have to be aware of just what your AI model does with what you feed it. So that might mean tailoring your prompts to sort of obscure some of that information to make it more general to be safe. Next is an over reliance on artificial intelligence. Think of what happens when you go to take a test open book versus purely off of memory. When you're open book, you tend to think you know more than you actually do because the information is right at your fingertips. This can be the same case with AI, and it can be easy to over rely on the artificial intelligence to give you the answers and give you that sense of knowing more about whatever you've asked, purely because that information is so readily available. Similarly, there can be some overconfidence in the accuracy. AI is not always going to provide the correct information purely because they learn based off of whatever they've been given. When Google first rolled out its AI summaries, there were a lot of obvious inaccuracies. But now, as it has learned over time, there are subtler ones that might not always be caught. And it can be hard to forget that because it is about 80 to 90% accurate. But it's good to keep in mind that it's not always going to get things 100% right. Tying into that overconfidence and accuracy is just simply the fact that it's a novel technology. It's still new. We don't entirely understand the impact of using AI just yet, and we need to be mindful that there are still going to be kinks in any system that we use. There are also only a handful of qualified experts in AI specifically, so we're all still learning. Finally, AI can quickly get expensive. If you want to be able to protect your data, you either have to pay for premium versions of tools already out there or attempt to program your own. If you want to go the route of trying to replace people with AI, then you're going to run into a huge costing that comes with that. People, because they are wired like a person, are going to be much easier to train than a computer, where you basically have to start with growing and teaching them from all the way from a little baby infant to a functioning worker every single time that you want to deploy one. So, as we keep these disadvantages and risks in mind, there are several key benefits that still make using AI actually worth it. The biggest advantage is simply being more efficient. These tools and artificial intelligence models can help automate certain tasks for us that might take a long time, like generating documentation, running analytics, even just whipping up little details. And that gives us more time back in our day to work on things that might take more time or more thought power to get done, or Even if you have a lot of meetings to get to during the day, you can schedule more of them because you're spending less time on that office work. They also help reduce some human error. Now, as we've said, they're not entirely foolproof. However, mistakes such as typos are much more easily avoided because the computer has a defined dictionary to work from. And let's face it, they don't have to use fleshy fingers to actually type in things on a keyboard. Next up is more room for creativity. Because you can use AI to help you quickly scale your ideas from one draft to the next in something tangible on paper and translate it from your mind, you can get farther in the creative process in the same amount of time than if you were working on creating something without the use of AI. Instead of having to use all that time to draw in the boxes, now you're getting more and more drafts out. Now, one thing I really enjoy about AI is that it also speeds up some decision making. Questions you might have about the details can be presented much quicker, such as pulling statistics and predicting some outcomes, so you can feel confident in what you're deciding to do much faster. And finally, because AI helps empower you every single step of the way, it means that the speed of development increases. Artificial intelligence is a tool meant to simply boost human productivity as it already is, and it allows for full scale applications and projects, whether they be in software, in writing, in healthcare, in any category, to be completed in a much faster time as it assists with those more time consuming tasks. So, I've given an overview. I have talked a little bit about just what it is to use AI. And so now that we know more, how do I and other developers actually use it? So the main uses here. First and foremost, you're going to have your chatbots. That's like your chat GPT. For me personally, I will use ChatGPT in my work life to try and understand concepts that I might not understand at the moment. Working for a concrete company, there are a lot of state regulations that I don't know about or formulas that people use that I just don't know what they mean. I'll often ask ChatGPT to explain them to me so that I can get a better understanding when coworkers or other people in the field might not be available for me to ask. I'll also ask ChatGPT sometimes to help me explain code, especially code that other people have written. Next up is with prototyping. There are a whole slew of technologies here that people can use. Figma has a couple of plugins like its wireframe designer. Adobe is rolling out its generative AI tools, and even ChatGPT has some capabilities now to help prototype. While I don't personally use a whole lot of these tools, I know of several peers who do. Being able to quickly create what a website might look like can help clients explore just what they need out of that website or their solution. And being able to save time on drawing a whole bunch of boxes on the screen to represent things means that those client calls can be much more productive. Next up is code generation. This one is much more pertainable to me as an actual developer. And the biggest example here is going to be GitHub Copilot. This is a newer tool that my workplace has started to use. And similar to Google Docs autofill, like as you're typing out sentences, GitHub Copilot can help you automatically generate code to make programming go much faster. It uses the information of the project around it to be able to make informed decisions on just what you want to do and what you might want to do. And I've found it super helpful as I'm writing some of the similar lines of code a whole bunch to just spit it right out. You can also prompt Copilot to draft an entire coding file for you, but this is a feature that my coworkers and I haven't used a whole lot, as we found it isn't quite there yet and usually requires more edits than it's worth. Next up is going to be automated testing. It's a really good practice to get into the habit of testing your code, even though it looks like it's functioning correctly. I know of some colleagues that use a tool specifically called Playwright, and it has an open source project that allows the AI to automate test creation and execution. Instead of going through a lengthy process that involves handwriting every step of the way, you can record how the application is supposed to perform, and the testing AI turns that into a set of steps for Playwright to use to confirm if the program is actually written in the best way to do that. Next up, and this is one that I think I probably use AI the most for, is for documentation. Writing documentation for code or any business process takes a whole lot of time. I like to use an extension called Mitlify in Visual Studio Code. And what that does is it helps me quickly generate documentation based on the various snippets of code I'm currently writing. I can highlight whatever I'm doing, it sends it off to its AI, and it quickly builds out what that means. There are also AI tools out there that generate documentation about entire applications or processes, which is super useful when you're working on a team. You're not going to be touching every step of the way in every single workflow. So being able to quickly understand what someone else has done means you can hop in and help a lot quicker. I mostly use Mitlify in combination with ChatGPT to understand whatever code or process I am working in. And that is simply because the way people code is as unique as their handwriting. No two people code the same way, no two people think the same way. So being able to quickly understand how they make an application function takes hours out of the debugging process. Finally, predictive analytics. The best example of this I can think of would be Google Analytics, which is Google's solution to basically knowing how people use websites. For my data geeks out there, this would probably be the artificial intelligence model that works with what you love the most. It mostly uses limited memory of the past interactions of dozens of people on a website to do things such as detecting fraud, so unusual periods of activity. It makes predictions on what people might purchase on a shopping site, and it also might analyze traffic for when the best time to perform site maintenance might be. That's how my team uses it, because obviously we don't want to make a website unavailable if people are still trying to use it and get things done during their workday. Basically, it takes information of how a website has been used in the past, and it allows the people running the website to make better decisions about the future. So, as a software engineer, I am one of the many people using AI during their workday. If you're interested in being part of the teams that shape the future of these powerful tools, there are a lot of steps you can take, and here are just a few of them. To first highlight the educational options that you have for going into artificial intelligence specifically, first and foremost are going to be certifications. Now, certifications are like mini degrees that show you are qualified in a very specific type of technology. For example, some of the most common certifications out there are for the Salesforce platform. Salesforce has a lot of certifications that says, yes, I am a developer for their Einstein AI section, or I work in their Marketing Cloud email suite. It says this is what I'm good at. Many companies are starting to offer certifications for using AI within their applications, and there are also some out there for showing you can develop AI models. One that is actually free right now is that Salesforce is offering their certifications course in AI for free until the end of this year, so December 2025. So if you're looking for a little bit of an early challenge, you can definitely check that out. These usually consist of some sort of training modules, followed by an exam you would take, similar to an SAT or an AP exam. Next up is going to be undergraduate degrees. With AI becoming an increasingly popular technology, there are technologies and universities looking to simply take advantage of the fact that people want to learn about this stuff and become experts in it. One university that I know of that has started to pilot this formal educational program is actually my alma mater, Indiana University, Indianapolis. And they now offer a bachelor's degree that is just in AI. The next step is going to be self teaching. While it's easy to want to learn only in a traditional format, so that way you have the guidance of an instructor, such as like in the classroom, the best way that you can learn about AI at the moment is to simply try it out for yourself. Go explore what is out there, go see what you can do with it. Now, I have to give a word of warning. You have to do this responsibly. In trying to self teach and learn about AI, you really have to employ good data practices, such as not letting out your personal information, not putting in things that could get you in trouble. Basically, just some common sense. And here's also where I will say I strongly advise against using AI to do your homework. And that's because one, it's academic dishonesty, but two, sort of some of those drawbacks you talked about earlier, It gives you that false sense of knowing more than you do. And I want to see all of you shine super bright in your futures. There are still a lot of good options out there, though, to start toying around with AI and what they can do and how to build your own AI technologies. There are tons of YouTube channels, tons of tutorials. There are so many things out there to help you learn just how to use AI. And now for some career options. If you're probably here, you want to be doing something in tech, and there are so many things that you can do with that. The most obvious of your career options for working in AI is going to be the AI software engineer. You can dedicate your entire career to being the person who develops these artificial intelligence models. There is a place in tech for every single person to fill their niche. And for me, that happens to be working at a concrete company. But for you, that might be writing the algorithms to solve a problem where it can't predict the weather correctly in this one country. You can focus on being the data engineer, so you can be the one that accrues the data that the model uses. You can be the developer that writes whatever algorithms and processes the AI uses to actually do whatever it's requested. Or you can even be the person that makes the platform people use to interact with the AI. So you would be the person building the website for ChatGPT and asking whatever they want as the user, and being the one to say, hey, they asked this question, AI, go answer it. Next up is going to actually be an artificial intelligence trainer. I mentioned earlier in my presentation that the AI is similar to starting with an infant from scratch. And so someone has to be the one to teach it. You can dedicate some time and resources to actually training the models that these AI technologies use to answer questions. And you can be the one to help them formulate that sense of what is right, what is wrong, what should I do, what shouldn't I do. And for both of these career options in AI specifically, you're going to be looking at different salaries. If you want to be an AI software engineer, because it is such an in demand sector, you're going to be probably looking at an average of 6 figures for your salary. I know that money looks super awesome. As you first get into it, you might not quite be there. With a little bit of experience, you could very easily obtain that 6 figure mark. If you are an AI trainer, because it is a very time heavy job, it really just depends where you're doing this work from. The average salary in Indiana, last I checked, was about starting at $60,000. And that's still a pretty good salary given that I believe the state average is somewhere between 35 and 42. So you still can make quite a bit of money just by talking back and forth with a chatbot all day. And finally, I think this one's pretty obvious. Anything. Artificial intelligence can be used in literally any career path ever. From software to healthcare, accounting, writing, there are so many fields that take advantage of AI in their work. In the software space, even if you're not an AI developer, you can be part of the team that spearheads the way that your company is using AI to make their workflows better. You can be the AI master for your company. In healthcare, you can be the one that knows how best to interact with whatever assistant that might be available to the patients and help them walk through using it to, for example, refill a prescription or set up an appointment. In accounting, you can be the one who pitches to your company, hey, we can use this predictive model instead of having to pull these thousands and thousands of spreadsheets to look at how we've done from a revenue perspective and having to do all these calculations manually. You can feed that right to the AI and say, all right, give me my numbers. What's 2026 going to look like for the company? And then in writing, you can use it with writing to help draft whatever it is you are looking to basically put pen to paper for. If you are looking to write a book, it can help you plan out synopses, character ideas, plot points. It can help you draft essays. Now I say draft, I don't say write. I got to remind you guys, don't use AI for your homework. But you can use it to get that thought process started and get that creative process going to give you ideas that you might not have had otherwise. Because in a way, it's sort of like giving you an outside perspective. Now, this is just a handful of ideas and ways that you can use AI in the workforce, but really the opportunities are endless. It's a collaborative opportunity between wherever you decide to go in the future and yourself, and that's just in the professional space. Personally, you can use the AI to say, all right, how good has my sleep been for the last week? How am I doing when it comes to taking care of myself? Is there anything I need to remember today? There's all sorts of things that you can do with it. If you ever use Siri, Alexa, Google, any of those, you're using AI. All right, we've gone through a lot. To give a little bit of a brief summary, as I've said, there is a lot that you can do with artificial intelligence. As a software engineer, I'm just one of many people who have started to use it in their day to day lives. And for me, AI isn't something that is going to take over my job, but rather it allows me to become much better at it than I would have been without it. It's like a little personal assistant on my shoulder at any time that I can go tap and say, hey, help me with this. There are so many tools out there that help me become a better developer, and I hope there's something that can be useful for all of you guys in the future too. With all that said, are there any questions? I see I've got one in the chat, and that is, what advice can I share that I wish I knew when I was still in high school? For me personally, I wish that I knew it is just as good to learn what I don't want to do versus what I want to do. When I started my tech journey, I thought I was going to be a UI designer. I never thought I would be the one writing all of the code, doing all of the nitty gritty details. I never thought I would be the one looking into AI. And so I want people to learn that you can go down a path, realize it's not for you, and that is totally okay. Next up is going to be from Alexander York, and that is, could AI be used in the medical field in a physical form to deliver life saving medications such as Narcan or albuterol? I totally think so. I believe there is I'm not sure if it's an AI robot or if it's just a machine, but it is there to help give CPR compressions. It registers the vital signs of the patient that they are working with, and it administers CPR in a perfectly rhythmic way to give the person the best outcome of surviving. So I definitely think that there could be instances where um, these machines could become much more physical and used in that way. Alrighty, next up, as a solutions developer, what types of AI do I use on a day to day basis? So, first and foremost is going to be ChatGPT. I will fully admit it has become a bit of a best friend of mine and my team's because, as I alluded to earlier, I work with a company that works with rocks all day. And rocks are rocks to me, but they can do so many cool things when it comes to building roadways, bridges, driveways, things like that. And so there are a lot of things that I just don't know about how those processes work. And so while I might not always be able to, poke someone on the shoulder and go, hey, what does this mean? Getting to ask ChatGPT has been super useful in making it so that way we're not stuck trying to learn about this one thing. Oh, this is a good question from Dante. Do you think AI could ever surpass humanity and start upgrading itself? So it sort of depends what you mean by humanity. If you mean allow it itself to be entirely self-sufficient and guide its entire own direction, that's sort of the ultimate goal here, I think. They want entirely autonomous pieces of technology. So from that front, yes, because with the self-aware AI, the goal there would be it would see the need that it is missing some sort of functionality that it then has to go and teach itself. Um, An example of that that even humans do is we go, okay, I don't know how to speak Japanese, for example. And so we would then go out of our way to learn that language, to teach ourselves, to upgrade ourselves. And now we have the ability to speak Japanese. I think it is possible, but I don't think it would go to a malicious point, if that makes sense. Alrighty, keep on coming. You guys have had some good questions for me. Ooh, I love this one. How did you make the switch from being a UI designer to a solutions developer? So for me, this came about in college. I started off really, really strong in the UI space. I loved designing things. I loved coming up with the prototypes, the wireframes. I loved making things look pretty. But I actually had a class with the developing professor. His name was Todd Shelton. Pretty sure he's still at IUI. And it really was just going into the code. I realized I like solving those problems a lot more. And I had the opportunity to become a teaching assistant for that intro course. And in being the TA, being the one who actually taught these college freshmen just what to do and how to do it, I found that I loved that so much more. I liked getting into the code, I liked solving the problems, and I still enjoy doing just about every single aspect of the software cycle that I can. But for me, it just came a lot more naturally to be in the code versus trying to come up with all of these designs. I found myself spending so much more time racking my brain for, okay, where can I put this button? How do these links look good? And relying on a lot more of other tools. Whereas with programming, it just felt natural. It was like writing in a language I'd written in my whole life. And so for me, that's how I knew that was what I wanted to do. Now, there's entirely a chance that I'll find something else that fits me even better, and we'll see where that takes me. But for now, I think I'm happiest writing the code and ironing out bugs when the computer decided to send that button that's supposed to be on the left all the way to the right. But yeah, we'll just see where the future takes me. Would there be a way to use AI to further strengthen international connections? Absolutely. One of the cool AI technologies that I have seen, and it's a little bit of AI, a little bit of just typical machine work, are automatic translators. There are earpieces now and phone apps that you can use to actually translate in real time just who it is that you are talking to and what language they're speaking in. And then they'll simulate your natural language in your ear so that we can continue to talk to them. So, using it as a way to bridge that communication gap I think would definitely be extremely useful, and I can already see how it's doing some of those things today. All right. That is all of the questions that we've had time for. I want to thank every single one of you who took the time out of the day to come to my session, who took the time to ask me questions, and I hope you all learned something from it, and I hope you guys get to enjoy the rest of Next Tech Navigate.